Uh-oh.
Wait, hold on.
Uh-oh.
That's only because somebody will want to.
I'm out.
Let's see where it is. I want
Did
that
you
one.
record that joke, Bob?
No, I did not.
Sadly, that's
Okay.
that's
Did
Did you
terrible.
hear about the crow kill this morning?
No, I did not.
Coming
Maybe
again.
he'll tell it again so we can record it.
Right. All right. So,
What
we're
was a joke?
yeah. So we're coming out of the dark tunnel of.
Push up to the screen to make everybody go to the side.
Say what?
How come all my people are on the side? Never mind.
Go ahead and mute him too, Bob.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and proceed while Pete figures out his computer. so at any rate, we're coming out of COVID pretty quick, and that's a good thing. Especially, I think Friday at midnight, a lot of the restrictions are being lifted, and pretty much I think everybody that's been operating has been vaccinated. But in this last month or so, I've had some time with the layout being down for the break to actually start implementing a bunch of things that I wanted to do for a while. So hopefully this is going to enhance some operations in the future, and also just make things a little better for everybody. Let's see. Okay, Brian Kidd is back, so I'm going to let him in. So without further ado, I'm going to start going over the changes. Let me find my, nope, that's not it. There we go. Okay.
While you're looking, Bob, could I just say if everybody would mute themselves except the people who are talking, it would mean that we wouldn't have to listen to your dogs bark and stuff.
Good point.
Well, we can set that up. All right. So at any rate, let me go ahead and go on. So this is Crew Lounge Chat for May 26, 2021. All right, so what's new and what's changed? We've added some more trains. Some train numbers are going to be changing. I've moved from the Ops software Ship It to JMRI Ops Pro, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a while. And I'm also using Manifest Generator, which works with Ops Pro to generate my switch lists and my yard lists. And I'll talk about the advantages for all of that. So first of all, let's talk about the trains. So I'm adding some new trains. There's a couple of coal extras in the morning, extra 407 and 408. Now for remote ops, we've been kind of playing with those trains for a while, and I've just decided that I like the way they're operating, and so they're going to be a part of the regular scheme. In the afternoon, I've added 4 extra coal trains, 425, 26, 27R, and 428. In addition, I have 2 trains that run from Keating to Carthus. And basically, these are trains that run to the end of Keating, go right to staging, and then come right back at the beginning and the end of the session. So it kind of clears some cars off the layout. And then I started adding 2 more Pensy through freights. They're nonstop expresses. So we've got EC9 and CE2. And we started using those in remote ops, and I've just decided that they're going to be a regular part of the operating scheme. Train numbers, I'm changing the train numbers. So the way the NCL train numbers work is that they're a 3-digit format, and the middle number now will designate whether it's a morning train or an afternoon train. So if the middle digit is a 0 or 1, it's a morning train. If the digit is 2 or 3, it's an afternoon train. So for example, train 527 is an afternoon local. What I've basically done is the first digit indicates what type of train it is. So any train that starts with a 1 In the 100 series, that's a commuter train. In the 200 series, that's a freight train. 300 series is an intermodal. The 400s are now all extras, so they're coal trains. 600 series is assigned to Amtrak, and the 700 series is assigned to chassis system trains. So with the new train numbers, these are the trains that aren't going to change as far as train numbers go. So the minor shuttle, which are the MSs, they stay the same. The morning commuter trains in the 100 series stay the same. Freight cars, NCL freights in the 200 series in the morning do not change. The intermodals in the morning do not change. The afternoon extras that I added just before COVID struck, 423R and 424, they stay the same. The morning locals, 501 and 502, and the Du Bois extra 511 stays the same. Amtrak trains, there's no changes for them. The chassis trains, no changes, and the two existing Pennsy um, freight trains, BF3 and BF4, they will stay the same. So now let's talk about the changes real quick. The afternoon commuter trains 115 through 118 are now going to be 125 to 128 because we've changed the 1 to a 2 in the middle digit, indicating that it's now an afternoon train. For the freight trains, 203 and 204 will now be 223 and 224. 211R and 212R kind of operated on alternate schedules, but now they're going to operate on the same day, just at different times. So 211R will run in the morning, so that's now going to be 203R, and 212 will operate in the afternoon. That's going to be 222R. My two intermodal trains, 304 and 305, will now be 324 and 325, and my afternoon locals will be 523 and 524 instead of 503 and 504. Coal trains. Originally, they were scheduled trains, and really, I've decided they're not going to be anymore. They're all going to be extras. So they're going to have an X in front of them with their train number. We also had the two Carthus coal trains, which were originally KS 411 and 412. Those are going to be extra 413 and 414. 421 and 422 I had on the list before, but they've been shifted to the morning, so they're now going to be 409 and 412. And the Du Bois mine run in the evening, which is for the supplies for the mine, not the coal or anything else, was originally 512. That's now going to be extra 520. So as I stated earlier, these are the train prefixes and suffixes and foreign roads. Amtrak always has a 6 added to it, and then the last 2 digits of the Amtrak train number. CSX has a 7 added to it, and then the last 2 digits of their train number. The Pennsy Railroad has an agreement with the NCL, and we just use their train numbers as given. So eastbound trains will always end in an even number, except for trains that end with a suffix of R or T. Same for westbound trains, they will end in an odd number, except for R or T trains. So if it ends in an even number, basically even is east, odd is west. Prefixes, MS is for the minor shuttle, which is a contract between the passenger service and the mines along the NCL. And then X in front of the train number indicates it's an extra. It's not a scheduled train. It can run pretty much at any time during that time period. The suffixes R basically means that the train reverses direction at some point and terminates at a new destination. So for example, trains that are denoted as an R and leave Emporium and go to Ridgeway actually start out going eastbound, but they have to reverse direction and go westbound to terminate in Ridgeway. So they don't start and end at the same location. They start and end at different locations, but they have to turn around somewhere in the session in order to achieve that objective. The T indicates a turn, which basically means that it originates and terminates at the exact same location. So these are my locals, my industrial locals and my mainline locals. So when they leave, instead of changing the train number when it gets all the way to the end of its run and starts coming back, it just keeps the same train number on its return leg. So let's talk about the ops software. So JMRI Ops Pro is what I'm going to. I've discontinued Ship It as of May 2021. And what I found in all the years I've been using Ship It is it's been good for me, but it is not flexible for any changes in the operating scheme, such as adding a train or changing a train's destination. And it also um, does not like new industries being added after you've already set up your operating scheme. There's this thing called balancing that has to be done, and it's very labor intensive in order to keep the train switching robust. But what I found is over time there is less and less traffic generated, and cars seem to get lost in the system or stuck in an industry and never move for like 12 or more sessions. So I've just found that unacceptable, and so I started playing with JMRI Ops Pro. What I like about Ops Pro is it's got a lot greater flexibility in adding, deleting trains, industries, towns, and sidings. The switch lists are much more robust. A lot of switching to be done, and I'm getting consistently longer trains up to about 15 cars, which I wasn't able to achieve with Ship It. So the longer trains, I think, look good on the layout. They may be a pain in the butt for the dispatcher because there's just only certain places where those long trains can pass. But you know what? It's my railroad, and that's just the way we're going to do it.
Right.
So I've added also an add-on called Manifest Generator from JMRI Ops Pro. And by the way, JMRI Ops Pro is free. It's open source. It's updated all the time by a group of great people, and it just gets better and better. Manifest Generator again is free. They do Dan does some updates on a intermittent basis. And what it does is it takes the information that Ops Pro generates and then it puts it into a different format for switch list. I could go with the JMRI Ops Pro switch list, but I kind of like the manifest generator ones. They're easier to read. They include a lot of important instructions for the engineers and conductors so that it's right there what you got to do when you got to call for a train warrant and when you don't. It also adds some neat things like if I have a hazardous car or an excess height car, it identifies those in the manifest. It also tells you what the blocking information for that train should be. So the order of cars based on their destination. For the yard switch list, I like them. They're easier to read and they provide the track assignments for both inbound and outbound cars. A lot of times with Ship It, you have two lists. You have an arrival list and you have a departure list. And what's the problem is that you get these cars that you're pulling off of this train and you're not quite sure where they're going to go next. Well, with Ops Pro, it says on train 201, I'm going to pull these 5 cars and they're going to track 8. Okay. I don't have to worry about figuring out where they're going. I can pull them, stick them right on track 8 and I'm good to go. Um, the nice thing about that is it makes the yard operations a lot smoother for the yard crew. So things are going to tend to move a little bit faster in the yard and probably accelerate getting the trains out and back onto the main line. The last thing I like about the Ops Pro is the yard switch list combines the set outs and the adds to a train on side by side. So you don't have to look at an arrival list and then look at a departure list. When that train comes in, everything is lined up side by side and you can just work from one sheet of paper. This is an example. On the left-hand side is the switch list for train 502T. So, and we've pushed 502T to originate in Carthus now. It's not even going to be in Nickel City Yard. But the first thing it says is obtain track authority to work NC Yard. And then here's all your pickups and how they're blocked. So there's a block for Nickel City Yard, there's a block for Shepherd's Field, and there's a block for Du Bois. In addition, one of the cars is hazardous, so it's flagged in red. And then there's another block for Montserrat, which tells you where you're picking these cars up. So these are all the different car locations and track locations. And then when you depart, it tells you, you know, how heavy the train is, how long it is, and how many cars it's taking with you. So if the dispatcher ever asks you what your car count is after a certain destination, you can easily just look at your switch list and say, well, this is how many cars I've got. When you arrive at the next destination, here's Nickel City, here's all of your pickups and which blocks they go into. So the yard crews should be able to have these preset and ready to go. And then these are what you're setting out. And then when you leave, this is what you're leaving with. So you're leaving with 7 cars, 426 feet, 286 tons, and so forth. The yard switch on the switch list on the right-hand side, you can see each train is color coded, and then when it arrives or when it departs and what direction it departs is right here in the top. And then the train is going to be pulling uh, you know what it's going to pull. So it's going to pull 5 empty coal hoppers for X414, and for 714 that train is pulling all of these cars and it's dropping off all of these cars on these different tracks. So this is going to be the yard switch list. This is going to be the train switch list. And I think that they're going to work a lot better than the ship it lists. So I'm going to talk a little bit about helpful hints. First and most importantly will be siding capacity. And then I want to talk a little bit about how trains are approaching NC Yard. This is actually a refresher, just so that everybody's up to speed on how that works. And then I'm going to talk about a couple of things in NC Yard, and then some helpful hints about working the locals, and then a little bit about the signals and track warrants. So the first thing is siding capacity. So each siding capacity on the layout is determined including 2 locomotives. So if you look at Waterloo Junction staging, it can handle 20 plus cars. Well, that's 20 plus cars plus 2 locomotives. So it's actually more than 20. In Nickel City, every track will hold 15 cars. Shepherd's Field, we have 10. Underwood, 8. Emporium, which is staging 20 plus. Canova to Bristow is 16. We have 2 mainline tracks there. Du Bois has 2 mainline tracks. They can hold 20 cars. And then Ridgeway staging can hold 16. So when you look at the layout diagram, and this is what the dispatcher sees, you can see up here the main, let's start with Ridgeway. You've got all of these tracks here have 16 car capacity. And then at Du Bois, 20 car capacity on main 1 and main 2. Canova to Bristow, 16 cars can fit in here. Emporium, we can get 20 plus cars in there. Here's your bottleneck at Underwood, 8 cars, and that includes 2 locomotives. So, you know, passenger meets, piece of cake. Maybe the mainline local, if they're only running 7 cars, that'll work out. In Shepherdsfield, we've got it'll take 10 cars. That's all we can get. And then 15 cars and then 20 plus cars. So for these 15 car trains, your best meets for 2 opposing trains of 15 cars is either City on the main line or in the yard if they got to go in the yard, up at Bristow, between Bristow and Canova, or at Du Bois. So those are your 3 main locations there. Smaller trains can pretty much, you know, meet anywhere. Passengers and small locals.
Yep.
Rich knows all about that.
Well, you
So,
can always do a double saw by at Shepherdsfield if you want.
well, that's true. That's true.
I'll mute myself.
So real quick, this is just talking about when trains are approaching NCR. So the dispatchers have to be aware that they can't route the train directly into the yard. They can set the turnouts, and they can allocate a portion of the route, but the yard master's signals, once the route is set for the yard, override the dispatcher's signals. So basically, any eastbound train. Oh, I screwed that up on that slide. Okay, so on the right hand side, you see Shepherdsfield. Those are eastbound trains. Not so, ignore the error down there on the graphic. So your eastbound trains are going to come into Shepherdsfield, and before they go to the yard, you want to hold them at CP 23, and then the dispatcher will call the yard and tell them that he's holding a train at Shepherdsfield that's bound for the yard, and then the yard master will align the switches within the yard and then throw his signal when the train is ready to go. Once the yard master throws the approach signal, then the signals at CP23 will indicate that the trains are going into the train is going into the yard. Otherwise, they'll stay red.
Bob,
And
you
then,
still got the correction on your mine number 6 comes into the middle of main 1.
well, it's an old slide, Bill. It's
You know.
all right.
Bob,
For
I
the
got a
purpose
question
of
for
this
you.
exercise, we're good. All right. So the westbound train coming from Waterloo Junction, they're going to climb the grade, and they're going to be hold at CP 15. So there's a signal right at CP 15. And that's when the dispatcher will align the route to take the train through on CP 16 over to the yard, and then but call the yard first to get permission. And then once the yard grants permission, the yard master will throw the signal, the approach signal, and then the signals at CP 15 will indicate that it's clear to enter the yard, restricting, which is a flashing yellow aspect over red usually. So on the yard master's side, here's granting permission to enter the yard. So the dispatcher will call to get permission. The yard master will go over here on their yard master panel and align the route for whatever the arrival tracks are. So these blue tracks here are the 4 arrival tracks. And basically what the yard master can do is click on any of these buttons, and it will cascade the route down to the appropriate track. Once that is done, let's say that the train is coming in from Shepherdsfield. So it's coming in on the west lead into Shepherdsfield. So they'll align this, they'll align the route, and then they will go down here to this signal, which is 455, and click on that and throw that to green. Once they do that, this signal will go to yellow, and then the signal on the main will go to flashing yellow, indicating that you're going into the yard. When the train then gets authorization to proceed into the yard, they'll arrive in the yard, and they will be switching over to the yard channel to talk to the yard master. Once the train is in the yard, the yard master will go ahead and call the dispatcher and tell them that that train is in the yard while they work on it. When they want to depart the yard master is going to call the dispatcher and tell them they've got the train ready to depart. They'll give the dispatcher the car count, and then what lead the train is going to be going out of, and the yard master will already align the route out of the yard and is waiting for the dispatcher to give authority. Once the dispatcher aligns the mainline track to the yard for departure and sets the signals, the yard departure signal, which is this one here, will go to the appropriate aspect based on the track conditions on the main line. As the crew departs the yard, they will go ahead and contact or switch back over to the road channel, and then they'll contact the dispatcher and stay on the road channel from that point forward. So in the yard, because of remote ops and I'm running from one side of the layout to the other, I started creating these consist tags, and I found them to be really helpful putting order to chaos. And so I'm gonna make them available for the yard crew when they're making up consists for outbound trains. And basically the way they work, it's very simple. Basically each train has two cards. They have a yellow tag and they have a white tag, and there's a cutout so that the tag slides right over top of the coupler. So the yellow tag, if you see a cut of cars with a yellow tag and a train number, that means that the cars are designated for the consist for that train, but we're still missing cars to complete that consist. So there's more cars that we're going to have to obtain before it's complete. If you see a white tag with green lettering on a cut of cars, then that consist has been blocked. All the cars are present and it's ready to go. If you see a red tag with a hold on it, then that just means that those cars have come into the yard. They've been assigned to whatever track they're supposed to be assigned to, but they're not going out this for the whole session. So they're on a hold, which means you're not going to pull them. You're not going to put them anywhere at all. Um, and so I found that this kind of works really well for me since I'm the only one there. And so I'll let the yard crews play around with them once we get up and running again. Um, so blocking is important for the locals, and they need to do a lot of blocking. So 501 and 523 are the industrial locals. And so these are all the industries located in Nickel City East. And so outbound, the train is going to depart going westbound to Shepherdsfield, and then it's going to do a runaround and come back and go to Nickel City East. So the cars should be blocked in this order. And I'll have these diagrams up in the yard for reference. And there's a method to that madness. Um, and I'll go back into that in a minute. Cars on the mainline local, which goes all the way to Du Bois, would need to be blocked in this order when it departs. And the Shepherdsfield block is on the tail end. And the reason for that is we're going to drop those cars off in Shepherdsfield and leave them behind and deal with them on the way back. That gets us out of Shepherdsfield and gets us farther up on the railroad to do all the other work up there and then deal with them on the return leg. So let's talk about how we're going to work those locals. Here's your industrial locals. So you can see the color code on these different cars match the color code on these industries. And this is pulled from the customer service maps that I'll have available, but they're also on the website. So basically when the train arrives, you want to pull all your pulls first and set them out somewhere down the line on the running track or on the switching track here, and just get them out of the way. Then you're going to do your first pulls, which are going to be Allegheny Brewery, the transfer house, and the shoe factory. And the reason for that is that those are all opposing switches. So you're going to back all of those in. So that's here. This is the shoe factory. Here's the transfer house. And then the brew silo is over here. So once you get those out of the way, the next thing you're going to do is pull these cars on the opposite end of your consist. And these are all push-ins. And so you're going to push into the news place next. Then you're going to drop your cars for the brewery warehouse. And then you're going to push the rest of the cars down. If you have any for the power plant, they'll be dropped here. And then on the return leg, Boyce Trucking and Transfer right here. And then the tire company right here. And then the last car you should have is for the frozen foods place, and just drop that car and then you're going to come on out. Then you're going to pull these last two cars and the locomotive is going to be on the facing outbound, and you're going to drag those out and you're just going to pop them in to the lumber yard here and the oil distributor right here. Once all that work is done, then you can back on down, pick up all those cars that you pulled, and then you're ready to leave.
Bob, now you're not doing any blocking the local for pulling them out. You're just, wherever you put them, you just pick them all up and take them.
Right, right. Because once they get to NC Yard, the yard crew will take care of that. So on the main line local, here's a couple of areas of interest. So this is Shepherd's Field, and so basically the mainline local should enter Shepherd's Field and pull into track 3. Once they're in track 3, they're going to drop any of these cars in this Shepherd's Field block. So they're going to detach the locomotive, come around, they're going to pull those cars off, and then they're going to stick them in track 4 and leave them. And the reason we want to put them in track 4 is because once we leave track 3, now we have 3 tracks available, especially if we have extra coal trains running that have to do work at mine number 6 over here. They can drop some cars on track 3 while they do their work so that we can, you know, keep one of the mains as open as possible, because main 1's going to be occupied with coal operations when they're working. And then once they've dropped this car here, the locomotives are going to come back, reattach to the consist, and then depart westbound. When they get to Canova, and I'm not talking about Laurel Valley or Mills River, because those are pretty straightforward. You can drop those things off on the fly. They don't require any fancy switching. But at Canova, your next block should be cut off from the train and left at the top of the Canova grade, at which point then you're going to switch over onto main 1, and then you're going to request that CP30 be thrown back, or actually that's CP20, not 28 now. That's an old graphic. And then you're going to come in and pick up the cars from the Canova Freight House. And then you're going to pull back out. Then you're going to ask for CP28 to be thrown again. And then you're going to back in, reconnect to the deliveries that you have for the Canova Freight House, pull back up, and then drop them right here, and then proceed outbound, proceed west towards Bristow. At Bristow, it's a little trickier. So you'll arrive probably on main 2. And you're going to, at that point, you're going to detach from your cars. You're going to leave most of your cars, but you'll be taking a few. You're going to come down and you're going to drop your quarry cars, and you're going to pick up any cars for the quarry right here and pull those. And then you're going to proceed forward. And if you have any cars at Baines Import or Bristow Scrap, you're going to pull those off the head end with the locomotive. Then you're going to do a run around, and you're going to drop your cars that you picked up on the main, and then you're going to push the whole cut of cars up and then back into the Bristow siding, and you're going to deliver the scrap cars and the Bain import cars to their destination, and then you'll come back out on the main.
Man, not to change that. It's done in line in here. The house is shook. I might lose power.
I can't hear you, Pete.
All right, never mind.
Okay. Then you're going to push all those cars, including your deliveries, into Montserrat Yard, where you're going to be able to make your deliveries and restage for your next run. So in Montserrat Yard, we have a couple of siding tracks, so you can just pull in, drop here, and then you have a couple of you have the freight house and you have the granary to pick up. So you're going to detach your locomotive and do your pickups first. Oh, okay. Let me go back to that. There we go. All right. So you've picked up your 2 cars, and you're going to just set them off here. Now you're going to pull your next cut of deliveries, and you're going to deliver to the tail track. And then you may have to do a runaround because you have to back the other car into the granary. There's a couple of ways to do this, but the idea is you're going to have to go back and forth and do basically a shimmy to get around these cars for your deliveries. Then you can pull everything out, and then you'll proceed to Du Bois. When you get to Du Bois, there's going to be some deliveries there at the coal plant, also at the supply house, and at the waste track. The advantage of Du Bois is that there are 2 switchers there, and the Du Bois crew can basically do most of the switching for you. So you'll go and drop off your cars for Du Bois. They'll pick up whatever needs to be picked up, and then they'll tack them on your train, and then you can return eastbound heading back to Nickel City. And along the way, you'll work Shepherdsfield, and you may have another drop at Montserrat on the way back. Okay, so that's the main line local and how they basically will work. Don't worry, I'm going to make a PDF of this presentation, and I'll have it available for download, so you can, if you want to study it, study it. Okay. Signals. I do have this signal chart in the website for download. So it basically tells you what the signals mean. But in general, if you have a green signal, regardless of whether there's another red signal there or not, it basically means go. If you have a yellow signal and a over a red signal, or a red signal over a yellow signal, that means you're going to go about half of the speed. Actually, slow. If you have a yellow over green, then that basically means you're going to go slow through the switches, and then you can resume normal speed. Yellow over yellow, you're just going to stay slow through the switches and stay slow on the main. And then if you have flashing yellow lights, that basically means that you're approaching a yard, and you're going to be on restricted speed. Also, if you have a flashing yellow over red, it means that you're going into a siding, so you need to be prepared to stop. And then red over red means stop. Don't go past the signal. And if you're in Nickel City Yard, you'll see the red signal, the red dwarf signals. They sometimes are flashing. And what that means is the switch is aligned for the lead. So you can proceed slowly past that dwarf signal, but you have to be prepared to stop at the departure signal. So this is mainly for the switcher, but sometimes the locomotives have to detach, and if they have to do a runaround, they'll have a flashing red, which means they can go past that dwarf signal to do their moves. But if the dwarf signal is red, then they can't go past it, because it either means there's an inbound train coming in, or something does not want them in the interlock. So basically, the way I've set these signals up, each of the signals has a marker on it, a number or some letters, and those are the control points. So on my railroad, the control points are really the switch numbers that correspond to the Digitrax system. So it's easier for me. I don't have to convert it. So if 29 is acting up, then I know that's switch 29, and it helps me troubleshoot. But if I have a switch that's on a main line in between 2 blocks and there's no turnout, then they have letters. So in this example, you see on the left-hand side, ML. That's control point ML. And the way I've done that, ML is between Mills River and Laurel Valley. There's also another one at midpoint on the Canova grade called CG. So when the dispatcher tells you you're cleared to proceed on signal indication to CPML, you know where it is because, excuse me, there's a sign there. So that's how the signals are identified. We're going to start implementing track authority again. So these are also available for download on the website, but I also have clipboards with the track authority sheets in the layout room at different locations. So basically, track authority is for anywhere that we do not have block detection, such as Nickel City East or Carthus, and also on the single track main between Underwood and Shepherdsfield. And so basically the way it works is when you need track authority, you're going to call the dispatcher requesting track authority. The dispatcher is going to give you a number that corresponds to the order you're going to be given, the date, who it's to, it will be your train number, where you're at, and what track you're on. And then they're going to go down the list and they're going to say, check box 2. And then he's going to say, proceed from CP24 to CPML. And then checkbox 3, work between CP24 and CPML on track 1. And then he's going to go on down the line and give you other boxes to check. And as you check those boxes, you fill in what he tells you. And then he's going to say, ready. Let's say you have 5 boxes checked. He's going to say, 5 boxes checked, ready for readback. And then you're just going to read that order back to him as he gave it to you. And at the end, you're going to say, or 5 boxes checked, and you're going to give your initials. And then the dispatcher is going to come back and say, readback correct, cleared at, and he's going to give a time, and he's going to get, and the dispatcher is going to give his initials. At that point, that's your clearance to go ahead and work on that section of the railroad. On the back side of the track warrant is a basic string diagram that identifies all the CPs along the way. So you can also turn that over and refer to that if you need to. On the layout, on the dispatcher's diagram, these are the 3 areas that will require track warrants. And track warrants can be issued either on the main channel, or the dispatcher could have you switching over onto the dispatch or the switching channel. Either way, I'll leave that up to the dispatcher. All right, so those are all the helpful hints. I wanted to quickly go over some of the updates on the layout because nobody's really been in the layout room since March of 2020. So let's look at the peninsula. So here's Carthus. So we've done a lot of scenery on Carthus. We've got the PA 1011 overpass, which is an actual overpass outside of Carthus. And this is a Photoshop from Google Maps of actual PA 1011 as it approaches Carthus. This is CP15 and CP16 down the line. Going down is towards Waterloo Junction. Going to the right with the next track is going to Carthus. And then you can also see CP15 looking eastbound as you can cross over. So you'd be going to Carthus on this track. You'd be going down to Waterloo Junction on that track. On the opposite end, if on the left-hand photo in the upper right-hand corner, if you can see my cursor or my mouse, that's CP15 way down there. The track on the upper level is going into Carthus. The track on the lower level is going into Waterloo Junction. And then if you were to just turn around, whoops, I'm sorry, let me go back. On the right-hand photo, you can see there's the PA 879 overpass leading into Carthus, and the lower track is leading into Waterloo Junction. And then the upper track, the gray ballast is main 1, and then the brown ballast, the center track is the interchange track, and the track closest to the backdrop is the intermodal track. Here's PA 879 again, looking this way. And now we have the Pennsylvania Inland Port, which has been completed. And so this is where the intermodal trains are going. They just pull in, they get dropped right here, and then the intermodal crew at the yard do all the work. So that's the destination for my intermodal trains. In Carthus proper, it's been coming along. So you can see the buildings are pretty much getting set up as I move forward. And it's going to be a very interesting switching area for the local switcher and the Carthus to Keating local. So there's an environmental recycling plant, there's a packaging plant, and then there's going to be a shipping plant, team track, a grocery distributor. So there'll be at least 6 industries in Carthage to switch at the beginning, and you'll be there all by yourself, working that. So it should be an interesting addition to the layout. In Du Bois, this is the east end of Du Bois, where you're coming out from Montserrat. So you're a single track. You'll be passing the Du Bois yard. These cars, these coal cars, are sitting on the scale track at Du Bois, and you can see the flood loader all the way down on the right-hand side. Here's some more pictures of Du Bois. So you can see the scale house down here and the scale track. Here's the flood loader. Then there's several coal storage silos behind the flood loader. The main plant is behind the flood loader off to the left. This photograph in the upper right actually shows you more detail of the processing plant with the smokestacks and the conveyor system. And then the lower right-hand photo, just another view of the conveyor systems as well as the thickener tanks. There's a primary thickener tank and a secondary thickener tank. And then this photo will show you the thickener tanks again, but then you have a supply track right next to the thickener tanks, a dump track for the waste rock and everything that comes out from the breaker, and then the dump track, which is right here for dumping everything. Here's your dump track house and the crusher, which then goes up and then goes through the screen house where everything gets separated before it goes in for cleaning. And then farther down the line is the yard for the plant. And this is where arrival coal cars will be left behind, as well as supply cars for the different buildings in the Du Bois plant. And then last but not least, in Du Bois is the Du Bois train station. And so this is scratch built. It's cardstock. And I did it basically using Google Earth photos and some other photos that were out there of the train station. It is slightly compressed for HO scale, but I used it with a Cricut cutter. And I will eventually be using making the plastic model itself, but all the windows had to be custom because there's just nothing on the market to match that. But it's a pretty rugged structure, and who knows, it may stay there for a number of years. We'll see. And then last but not least, let's kind of look at the peninsula itself. I've put in lighting valances and skirting to kind of give it a finished look. So this is what you'll see when you come downstairs into the crew lounge. And it's pretty much done, other than a little bit of scenery on the far end over here by the radio, portable radio cabinet. And then in Nickel City Yard, we have a new yard tower. So that's all equipped with LEDs, and the exterior lighting is using lighted circuit boards that come on at different times for the fast clocks. And then last but not least, we're really excited about this. We're going to be getting a new industry in Nickel City East. And it's been asked for a while, and we are just happy to be opening up very soon Barraza's Lawn Guy Land, which is landscape supplies. And you'll have to ask Dave what the Lawn Guy Land joke is all about, but I love it, and that building needed a business, and so Dave, you now have your own lawn landscape business in Nickel City East.
I love it. I'm a lawn guy.
You are a lawn guy. Okay. All right. So to bring this stuff to a close, let's talk about upcoming ops sessions. So like I said, COVID restrictions are being lifted faster than we can expect. And they certainly got lifted a lot faster than when I put this, series of slides together. And I just decided I'm not going to update them because who knows what the next thing's going to be. So here's the deal: full hybrid or full remote or hybrid. Well, we're going to have a limited number of full remote sessions starting in June. Um, and Wednesday evenings, we have the option to be either full remote or we can make it hybrid. And they'll be like mini sessions. So they'll only be 2 hours long, and we'll have a smaller crew in-house, or we can just have a full remote crew. It doesn't matter. It's whatever people want to do. And if we don't have enough people to do it, we won't do it. It's okay. Hybrid sessions, with the exception of if it was a Wednesday night session, will be 3 hours in length. The people that are in the layout room, fully vaccinated, have a mask available, but if you've been fully vaccinated, the mask wear is optional. I can tell you that in my household, everybody is 100% vaccinated, and we're all good to go. And I got the green light to let people back in the layout room, so we're good there. Um, Full remote option will still be available for summer 2021, and hopefully we won't have any spikes um, that put us into a mandatory full remote option. But in the hybrid mode, the positions that will be available will be obviously the dispatcher and up to 4 remote engineers. We can do 2 or 4. For in-person, the limitation for in a hybrid mode where we have a combination of remote operators and in-person operators will be up to 8 people in the room in the layout area, and that would include 2 of the yard crew. The hostler is an optional position. We can have 1 person at Du Bois, and then we can have 2 to 4 remote operators, or a mix of 2 to 4 remote operators and in-person engineers, or we can add brakemen to work with the remote operators, but we won't exceed more than 4 people, either in the room as an engineer or as a brakeman. And then the dispatcher, as I said, can be either remote or in person. Depends on what everybody's comfort level is. So here's kind of how I'm going to work it for June. I'm going to do a Tuesday morning hybrid session, which will be from 10 to 1, 3 hours in length. So we can have some people coming in remote if they want, and some people coming to the house. The Wednesday evening session will be either a full remote or a hybrid session, but it will only be limited to 2 hours, 7 to 9, and definitely a smaller number of people, maybe 3 to 4 people downstairs. And then I'm going to do a Saturday morning session. It can be a hybrid or a full session. It depends on what people are comfortable with. It will also be 3 hours in length, running from 10 to 1. So when are these going to be? We'll start with Saturday, June 26th, and then we'll do a Tuesday morning session on June 29th, and then we'll do a Wednesday evening session on June 30th. So that will give you basically several opportunities to jump back into ops, either in person or remote, whatever your comfort level is. And I'll be sending out crew calls as we get into June. And then as we move forward, if things continue to die down, I'm going to keep the cameras up. I'm going to keep the train cams active, but we'll be scaling back. We'll be scaling back to 1 or 2 sessions a month as we get back to our normal schedule. And if things continue to go the way they're going, I fully expect that we'll probably be back to regular remote or regular ops by October at the latest. And again, the fully vaccinated requirement will eventually be eliminated, but we'll wait and see what the CDC and the Virginia guidance is regarding that. So that's pretty much it on all the updates and everything else. So I'm just going to open it up to you guys to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about or ask any kind of questions you want.
Where is Keating
Where is in reality or in the layout room?
in the layout room?
It doesn't exist. It's
Okay, that's what I
it's a car storage drawer underneath Carthus. So basically, the Keating train will assemble all the cars that are going to Keating, and then it'll pull forward all the way up to the red signal and stop. And then from that point, I can switch out cars that are in the storage box and then turn the engine around for the next session when it comes back in. And that's Keating. But the Keating train is actually going to be combined with another train. So you'll get the Keating train, and then you'll get one that you're going to be using the same locomotive for. So you really get two trains. So you bring the train into Carthus, you'll work it, and then you'll take it off from there. So what else?
Bob, do you have a number of new switchers that now you're gonna have people operating in, like in Du Bois and Carthus and so forth?
Well, they've always been there. It's just they haven't been utilized. But I have enough trains right now to handle everything, locomotives to handle everything that I need. I did pre-order another locomotive, but it won't be here till December. And I've got one in the shop right now that I'm working on a decoder issue. But I have more than enough locomotives to make it work.
Bob, I have a question about the car links at the sidings.
Yes.
I was a little bit confused. It's just me, but when you say, if, for example, a siding in Underwood, it has 8 cars, that means 8 cars plus 2 locomotives. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Every siding is listed as how many cars it has, and then it includes the 2 locomotives. So when I measured it out, I actually took the trains and I ran them down there, and I know that I can fit basically a 10-car train. But I don't want to confuse that, because some people might count the locomotives and some people might count the cars. So I'm just kind of keeping it simple with, if there's 10 cars on your train, you can get into Underwood or Shepherdsfield. 8 cars in Underwood.
Hey, Bob, this is Pete. In the beginning, you showed us those forms that are filled out, like the switch list and stuff like that. Was that all generated by the software?
Yes, that
Wow.
was the manifest generator, which is an add-on to Ops Pro, and it's free.
Did you have to, put in all the data, like all the names of the buildings and the industries and all that stuff like that, and cars?
I had to do that in Ops Pro.
Okay.
So you have to put all the industries in Ops Pro. Just like any software package, you got to invest the time to get it set up. But once it's set up, it runs fine. And like I said, with Ops Pro, one of the real reasons I jumped over to Ops Pro is I have all these Carthus industries that I have to add, and then I have a couple of new industries. I have Baines Customs House up in Bristow, and I have Boyce Trucking in in Nickel City East, and pretty soon Barraza's Long Guy Service or Long Guy Land. So I had to have something that was more flexible. And Ops Pro, I just threw those industries in there. I told it what kind of cars I need and when I need them, and voila, it just starts populating those industries. It just takes with Ship It, I would be spending probably 2 weeks trying to balance everything out.
Does it generate your trains that's going to run the next trick automatically, or something like Ship It?
Yeah. They're all the trains are in there, and then all it does is it builds all those trains. And with Ops Pro, you have 2 different options. You can either build them on the fly, or you can build them in advance. I'm building everything in advance. To build them on the fly, you have to have somebody who's actually at the computer when, it would be like the hostler's job. So when somebody shows up and reports in for a certain train, then you push the button and say, build that train, and it's going to build it based on what the conditions are on the layout. But I'm not going to do that. That's maybe something that's great for a club or a big layout where you got a lot of people, but I'm not going to do that for my layout. So what else? You guys are so quiet.
I think we're overwhelmed.
Well, we'll ease into it all. It's not a big complex thing, but we we changed some names and stuff like that. But I'll have all the paperwork like you're used to, so you'll be able to follow everything. Study it in advance.
Bob, you're just so thorough and you got all the detail already figured out.
No, you do your best. You do your best. So what else is going on in the hobby world?
Well, I'll just tell somebody, I found a module that I can use cell phones on my layout NCE without using GMRI. And I got it and it works great. So, it's just like using GMRI, but without the software.
Hey, Pete, is that the Wi-Fi tracks?
Yes.
Okay, I was looking at that and I hadn't heard anybody that got one, and I was looking at getting one.
Yeah. I mean, I plugged it in. It took me 2 minutes after I talked to Bob about something. I mean, it's great because when I'm in my train room and I want to go on the train, I just pull up my cell phone and without going to get it throttle, you know what I mean? So it's great.
Okay, cool. Where'd you pick it up from?
Yeah, guys, I have.
I get it off eBay, but I'll send you. There's a link. It's made in Australia, but there's a guy in the U.S. that sells it, but he sells them on eBay.
Yeah, I saw him for around about $125. So I was just wondering if you got a better price or if that was it.
No, I think an eBay is about that price, and I bought the one that's mounted on the fascia, right? The one that's mounted under the layout,
Right.
And it has to be the first, fascia item in your chain.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Cool.
great.
So Charles and Dave also have that Y throttle or whatever it's called. What do you guys call it? What is it called?
It's the UWT 100.
There's mine right there.
Right.
Oh, let's see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I use that with that piece of cake.
And it works on, let's see, there's two softwares on a cell phone, right, Bob? One is Light and one is Train Generator or something? Or?
Oh, were you talking about the apps?
Yes.
One of the apps is Engine Driver and the other one is We Throttle.
Both work.
That's if you're going to use a phone.
Right.
Use your phone, yes. So in other words, if you want to save on buying photos, you don't have, if you want to use a phone, it's just neat. It's something different to do,
Yeah, but when your girlfriend calls you and you're running trains, then your train stops.
That's probably a safe side failure.
Anybody's got old cell phones that go throw them away, don't. Give them to me.
Well, that's true. With the old cell phones, it doesn't. You just leave the Wi-Fi on, and then you don't have to worry about it.
A guy I know is buying cell phones for like $30 a piece, just the Droid phone with no software, no SIM card, no anything, which is significantly less than the UWT 100's cost.
Wow.
But it's got nothing in it, so it's a little bit of a hobby project to get it up and going. But he's using them as his throttles. As his MRC throttles die and he doesn't care to get them fixed anymore, for what it would take to get an MRC throttle fixed, he's just going to get a phone with nothing in it and run Engine Driver.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sounds smart to me.
Yeah. Charles, are you in your layout room?
I am.
This is the layout room that we always see the backdrop on.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, let me. I'm plugged into the stereo so I can hear you over. Let me just walk across the room. You can see. I'm just backing up here. You can see behind me.
Wow.
That's the angle there, and it's a little update from the last picture you saw out there. There's the 3 levels here, and so forth and so on. The my train station main center, the layouts through here and so forth. But anyway, I just wanted to say I gotta go because I gotta get up early in the morning. Just good to see you all again, and
Yeah,
I'm looking
Charles.
forward to these
Charles, where are you
remote and
located?
hybrid operations.
Yeah.
Charles, where
All
are
right.
you located? Where you live, Charles?
He's up near Reading.
Ready, okay.
Reading, PA, about 20 minutes south of town. I live basically out in the middle of nowhere, Berks County.
So Bob, you got to organize an ops weekend with all these guys that are following from us. You know?
Well, you know, we have to do that. We have to make a rail trip,
Yes.
a rail trip. So,
Hey, Bob, I have a question
Anytime
for
you
you.
guys want to come on up, let me know.
all right. Thanks, Charles. Good
Hey,
to
Bob,
see
I
you.
have
Good to see
I
you.
have a
All right,
Charles.
take
question
care.
for you.
I'll see you guys around.
Bob,
Yeah. Yeah.
today we use our iPhone remotely. If we come over there in a hybrid, can we bring the iPhone over and just use it as our throttle instead of a Digitrax?
Yeah. Yeah. It'll keep working. It's always live. It's whenever the layout's up, it's always live. So, and it should just appear on your thing. Actually, you probably, if you bring it over, it'll just automatically acquire since you've already set it up. So that, yeah, it's fine.
I got a question, Bob.
Yeah.
Is there any way to get to Long Island without going through New York City?
Yeah, you can take a boat.
Oh, come on, you're killing me there. You're killing me there.
Take
We're
a
gonna
boat
stop
from
for
Connecticut.
pizza. We're gonna get good pizza.
That's true. You can take it from New London, Connecticut. Take
Or Bridgeport, yeah.
or Bridgeport. Yeah. Yeah. Take the ferry over.
Other than that, no, you got to pay all kind of tolls.
Yeah.
That's how they catch you.
All I
Yeah.
can say is you never trust Pete for directions in the Bronx. You just don't know where you're going to end up. You'll be in the
aren't you
back
from the
alley of
Bronx?
some
I
factory or
was sitting
something.
way in the back of the van, and Ernie's head was in the way, so I couldn't see where we were going.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm afraid, really, I have to say that Pete was in a fog. That's all I can say.
It was foggy that day. It was foggy that day.
so who's up? Who's of the regular guys? Who's up for in person?
Oh, I'm up in person.
Sure.
Well, I'm only
Okay.
around the corner.
Yeah, I'm up for in person.
The
Okay.
commute's a killer.
Yep. But
Yeah,
but
I'll do it. I'd do it too, Bob.
all right. All right. Well,
So, whenever, or I'll dispatch from here, actually, that's not such a bad deal. Saves me the hour and a half round trip driving. So that's not such a bad thing, but
It
you know.
saves you that full hour Biden gas prices, huh?
yeah,
Okay.
but it is fun, but I would like to be back in a real layout room and set my own.
right. Right. Okay. I was just trying to see where we are on it, because I know there's, everybody has a different comfort level still. And, as we start shifting back to the real world, I want people to be comfortable. So,
Are you
Well,
implying we're a bunch of
I
shifty
think most of
guys?
us are probably vaccinated at this point, right?
I would hope so. I think so. I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at this group, I bet you everybody's got their 2 shots.
Right. Right. So we should be, in good company here. So
I've got a big M on my chest, so I'm good. It's all Moderna.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I like these Moderna guys. Like when you're a Pfizer guy, it's all Pfizer all the way.
Yeah.
It's a whole new thing to argue about.
That's right. We could argue about which is the better vaccine.
We don't need football or baseball anymore.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We're all
But
gonna
it's only 99% effective,
The Nats will win 3-0.
Well, you're gonna see people walking around with sports jerseys that either say Pfizer or Moderna.
That's a good idea, actually.
Nobody will show up with the Johnson & Johnson, though, right?
Oh, people will look at those guys and say, "Your team sucks."
Yeah.
My daughter-in-law works for Pfizer. I can see that shirt
They're
coming.
only 17%.
That's like AAA baseball.
So,
Yeah.
well, hopefully, I mean, I've enjoyed the remotes. It's definitely kept me sane.
I would say, Bob, the remote sessions, the views were great.
Well,
views were great. I saw more nice views of your layout. It was amazing. Trains. It was just great. You wouldn't get that, without the live person. It's going to be different views.
Yeah. Bob, are you going to keep the train cams going, and how's that going to work?
well, the train cams will be available if we have any remote operators. So they'll still be up and running. Two of the train cams will barely last 3 hours.
Yeah.
Batteries will barely. The other two that are sitting on the deep well cars, they can go for 6 hours. So when we get into these 3 hour sessions, I really have to start looking and make a plan so that the trains at whoever's assigned those two shorter batteries know that they may not make it all the way to the end. So I'll line them up early in the session so they can, do their stuff. And that way, if it dies, it's okay.
Are you going to retire those train cams eventually, or just keep them? I mean, you're going to retire them?
They're there. I mean, there's no point in taking them apart.
No, right.
And it's the same thing. The cameras are up in the layout room. I'm just going to leave them up. The computers are there. They're all set up. They're not really in the way. So, if nothing else, like I said, this might have been all started because of COVID, but let's realistically look at down the road, and we're going to have an ops session, and we've got a winter storm coming. Okay. And guys are like, well, I just don't want to drive like Rich. I want to drive from Reston all the way out to Prince William County and maybe have to deal with snow coming back.
Yeah.
Or ice. Okay. So, I'll throw the proposal out there. Do you guys want to change over and do the session remote? And guys can, bid for that, because after all, we did hold an ops session in the middle of a hurricane. And, and we had no problems, and everybody got here and everybody went home just fine. And all the trains worked.
Yeah, that's true. It was a good session too.
Yeah.
So if we're going to be bidding on these remotes versus in person, so do we need a seniority system here?
Well, I don't know. This is all new territory. We'll have to figure it out.
Gregory is seniority number 1, so he's okay. But what about the rest of us?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to tally up the things.
Like bribes.
Of course, I'll always take a bribe.
Where do you think all the engines come from?
I've got this truck with an antenna on it that I got to get to you. Yet,
I know.
So
well, you have to stay in the county instead of going out all over the place.
I know.
I mean,
it's a bear, but somebody's got to do it,
Yeah, Ernie. I call him up. What are you doing? Well, I'm heading out on the road again. Gonna go do this. I got to teach this. I got this meeting here, and he's, I'm glad you're getting your hotel points, but really,
you know better than bring up Hilton points. I get in trouble over Hilton points. As a matter of fact, I just got an email about that the other day. Again, you cannot take Hilton points.
Oh God!
I talked to the sources. Why'd you have to send that for? a new boss.
A new boss.
And I was
I'm
explaining
ask you
to
guys
him.
to excuse me. I got to take off, but thanks, Bob. It was wonderful. Thanks for being there and for all you're doing.
Bill.
Bill, good to see you as always.
Take care, Bill.
Good to see you all. You're great guys, and take care. See you soon in a railroad near you.
Yeah,
Brian,
absolutely.
There you go.
Hey, Brian,
Thanks, Bill.
Hey, Brian, what's that backdrop? Is that you in your train room? Brian.
No, that's photograph.
Okay.
Of my layout, but it's Ronsford.
Yeah, looks good.
Thank you.
Dave, are you doing it in person tomorrow?
Yeah, it's everything's opening up here, and New York is following the CDC. I took a quick straw poll. There's a couple operators that are on the younger side, and I wanted to make sure that they were okay and got their shots. So we're gonna go ahead and do it, no masks. I have the approval from upstairs to do that.
That's good.
And we've all got our shots here, but and it's if you want to wear a mask, I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
I told everybody. I mean, basically, what your little bullet list is pretty much like mine. So I'm not going to fault you if you want to wear one. We've got masks here. If people find that they're like, huddled over each other or something, or, or I've had some very rich food for dinner. Maybe everybody's going to put a mask on. I don't know.
Was that masks or nose plugs?
yeah, for like swimming. Yeah, the little clips.
What was that movie on that submarine with that guy?
I say everybody kiss each other on the cheeks when you go in person. Everybody kiss each other on the cheeks, and then you're good to go.
Two of my guys do that because they used to be brother-in-law. The guy married his sister, and they're divorced, but they're still friends. So yeah, they're it's very European, very continental. What can you say? Yeah, they've been doing this though recently.
Hey, Bob,
Yeah.
I need to get going. I'll catch
Okay,
you
Bill. Good to see you.
Yeah, me too, Bob. Thanks a lot.
All right. Glad you guys could all come.
Great.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, a couple of questions. Since I came late, I presume you'll have either a copy of the slide deck or the presentation that I can catch the first 25 minutes that I missed.
Right.
The second was, okay, came in and then you got to a point on track warrants. Now, it showed a couple of circled areas along the main line. Is it that you need the track warrant to work those side tracks there, or did all trains need it for that section of the main line?
No, only to work. Only to work.
Okay.
Right. And that's only on that single track between Shepherd's Field and Underwood. And then the other track warrants are only applicable to Carthus and to Nickel City East because those are unsignaled and undetected. So
basically it's authority for the quote other track.
Right. And
okay.
Yeah. So, and we just kind of added that in, and it may not be 100% prototypical. I'm sure it's not, but it just added a little extra operating interest for the crews and the dispatcher. Not that the dispatcher doesn't have enough to do, but when they get bored, give them a track warrant. So, I mean, they could request track and time, but I just went with track warrants. So, and you guys can print the track warrants off, from the website if you want. But if you're in the room, there's clipboards with all the track warrants and the pencils and everything else like that. So, all right. Well, if anybody doesn't have anything else, I'll let you all get back to what you were doing, but it was great to see everybody. And
well, Bob, it's going to be hard for me to get back to what I was doing because I don't know what I was doing.
Well, I sent you some video links of some really great off sessions.
I saw that.
So look at a couple of those.
There you go.
I will tell you, there's a couple of great YouTube videos out there right now that I've been watching. One is KCS Third Sub.
Okay.
I think it's a club, but I mean, they've got all kinds of. I mean, it is just an enormous layout, and they've got so many different trains running all at the same time. Double deck layout, and then the dispatchers area is just filled with screens, and they use cats like I do, and radios and everything else, and then they also have maintenance crews that are out there working with taking tracks in and out of service for maintenance and checking with the dispatcher for track and time. They're about an hour long, but man, they go fast because you just enjoy listening, and they're well edited, and they explain a lot of stuff, so it's fun. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to let you guys go. Good to see you. Keep an eye open for the crew calls, and it'd be nice to get people back in the layout room.
There you go. Y'all take care.
All right.
Hey, guys.
All right. Good night.